4, 3, 2, 1.
Studio Classroom is recording.
Studio Classroom. Studio Classroom.
Please stand by.
Studio Classroom is on the air.
Hello and welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. We're so glad you could join us today. My name is Anne-Marie. I think today is a great day to learn something new.
It really is. So let's do that together, friends. My name is Gabe. We're continuing our lesson, To Vape or Not to Vape. And before we get into this lesson, let's talk a little bit more about how you deal with stress, because we know that some people go to smoking or vaping as a way to deal with stress. At the end of yesterday's lesson, we talked about coping mechanisms, right? Well, how do you deal with stress?
Well, that's a good question. And when I hear the phrase coping mechanism, it automatically makes me think of something that's not necessarily healthy. Mm-hmm. I would say when I'm really stressed, I end up binge watching TV or binge social media and eat a lot of unhealthy snacks. That's my coping mechanism.
That's something a lot of people do, right? Because watching TV is seemingly harmless, and if you watch a show every now and then, it's okay. But you said binge watching?
Yeah, so sometimes I'll sit for several hours at a time and watch episode after episode of something I'm into. But what about you? What kind of coping mechanisms do you have?
Well, it's nice to go out for a walk every once in a while to get away from some of the stresses in life. I love to play drums, and that is a way that I can deal with stress too. But sometimes when I'm with other people, or when it comes to vaping and smoking, right? I know a lot of the reasons that people do it or get into it is because it's cool or because a lot of their friends are also doing it. And so we have to think about this question too. How do we cope with being in a situation where everybody else is doing something and we don't really want to, or we know it's not good for us? What should we do? Well, maybe our lesson will address this a little bit. Let's get into the first reading for the day.
To vape or not to vape? Vaping devices, known as e-cigarettes or vape pens, among other terms, come in many shapes and sizes. Some look like regular cigarettes. Others are shaped like everyday objects, such as pens or flash drives, and marketed to teens on social media. One company's advertisements showed vape users relaxing, having fun with friends, and going on adventures, all alluring activities to teens. However, this is just a marketing trick, so don't be deceived. But it's the flavorings that are the biggest attraction for adolescents. The more than 7,000 e-juice flavors, many of them candy and fruit, are especially enticing to young people.
Hi everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm Jack. 我们先来看 look like 这个常用的片语动词，意思是看起来像或是好像。譬如Molly's lasagna looks like something my wife would make. Molly 的千层面看起来跟我太太做的很像。或者是 It looks like it is going to rain, so we probably can't go to the beach today. 看起来要下雨了，我们今天可能去不了海边了。再举一个例句 Sarah looks just like her sister Polly. Sarah 看起来就像她的姐妹 Polly。接着来看 allure 这个动词，意思是吸引或是诱惑。譬如 The waterfall never fails to allure Alice and her friends. Alice 和她朋友总是抵挡不了瀑布的吸引力。allure 的现在分词 alluring 可以当形容词用，例如 Disneyland has an alluring magic that makes everyone want to go there. 迪士尼乐园有一种迷人的魔力，让人人都想去那里。或者是 Brad asked Ken what he found so alluring about Maggie。Brad 问 Ken 为什么他觉得 Maggie 有吸引力。All right, let's get back to our teachers.
Thank you so much, Jack. Friends, we are starting day 2 of our lesson called To Vape or Not to Vape. Let's get right into it. We read here, vaping devices known as e-cigarettes or vape pens, among other terms, come in many shapes and sizes. Well, there is a phrase there that we want to look at before we move on. The phrase to come in all shapes and sizes or many shapes and sizes. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, a lot of things have different shapes, right? Or they come in different shapes. That means the companies that made these things made them with different shapes and with different sizes. That's when we would use the phrase, they come in these different shapes and sizes.
That's right. I often hear this phrase used to talk about people as well. People come in all shapes and sizes. We all look different, right? Well, we find out some of the shapes and sizes that these e-cigarettes or vape pens come in. Some of them look like regular cigarettes. Others are shaped like everyday objects, pens, flash drives, and they are marketed to teens on social media. Well, let's talk about what an everyday object is before we move on.
Okay, so an everyday something is something that is common to see every day. It's something that you would experience on an everyday basis, if it's an everyday experience, for example. Our lesson is talking about everyday objects, things that you would see probably every day. You don't think anything special about them, right? Pens, pencils, flash drives, things like that are everyday objects. What are some other everyday things? Well, maybe you have to do some chores. Your everyday chores are doing the dishes and something like folding laundry, right? And then there are some very special projects that you don't do every day. We wouldn't call those everyday tasks.
That's right. But there's something else in this sentence that we do want to take a look at, and that is the word marketed. That is one of our key points here in the second part of our lesson. You're going to see this come up multiple times because it's something that our writer really wants us to focus on. Now, when it says here that these e-cigarettes or vape pens are marketed to teens, that means that they're specifically trying to get teens to buy their product. And not only that, these advertisements are appearing on social media.
That's right. So of course, companies of all kinds, companies of all shapes and sizes market their products in different ways, right? Maybe they rely on advertisements online or on TV or on YouTube or something like that. They're marketing their products to all of us, right? And I think it's important for us to think about how companies are marketing their products to us and what they're trying to tell us about stuff. Because sometimes we just kind of buy a product without thinking about why we bought it, right?
Yeah. This makes me think of those advertisements you see, for example, for cars on TV. You know, if you buy this kind of car, you'll have a really adventurous or luxurious life. But car companies aren't really selling a lifestyle, are they? They're really just selling a product.
Yeah, exactly. But they're relying on things that make you feel a certain way. And that's what our lesson is saying too. One company's advertisements showed vape users relaxing, having fun with friends, and going on adventures. All alluring activities to teens. And this is true. Most teenagers or adolescents really like doing those things. They like relaxing, they like having fun with or hanging out with friends, and of course, going on adventures. There are many ways we can go on adventures that don't involve vaping, right?
That's right, and that is what our article says here in the next sentence. You really don't need a vape pen to do all of these things. So this is just a marketing trick. Don't be deceived. If something is a marketing trick, you kind of get the idea that the company doing the marketing is kind of deceiving you or tricking you or even being deceitful to get you to think one thing about their product that isn't necessarily true.
Yeah, it reminded me of the word gimmick. It could be a marketing gimmick, right? This is something that's not very serious, or you shouldn't take it too seriously, but it's used to attract attention for somebody to buy something, right? For you to buy something. So that's a marketing gimmick. Keep your eyes out for marketing gimmicks. They're all over the place, right, friends? I think it's good to observe, what you see in everyday life and talk about the marketing gimmicks that are out there.
And we will talk about that more in our next section, but right now it is time for us to go to today's Info Cloud.
Hello friends, welcome to InfoCloud. Today we will be sharing with you a very interesting English expression. Surprise, surprise!
Yeah, I know. We usually teach a new expression on each of our segments. So what is it today?
I just said it. Surprise, surprise!
Oh! I see what you did there. That's a clever one, Rex. So today you want to talk about this expression that people use, surprise, surprise. Now, why don't you explain what it really means?
People say surprise, surprise when something very predictable happens, like teaching a new expression each day on InfoCloud.
Well, since a surprise is not supposed to be predictable or expected, or it won't be a surprise, this is an expression that has some irony to it.
For example, John is late to work again. Surprise, surprise. This implies that John is often late, so this is not really a surprise.
Now, this expression is often used in a negative situation. We should be careful not to be too sarcastic when we use this expression.
当你看到经常发生的事情或是现象又发生了，完全是意料中的事情，你可以用今天分享的用语 surprise surprise 来形容。surprise 是惊喜，但是如果你连续说2次 surprise surprise， 那就代表有一个意料中的惊喜又发生了。既然是意料中的，那就应该不算是惊喜了吧？原来 surprise surprise 含有一种反讽的意味，用来形容经常发生的事情。例如 John is late again. Surprise, surprise. John 又迟到了，真是意料中的惊喜呀。这就是今天的 InfoCloud， 我们下次云端见。
Studio Classroom is on the air.
Welcome back to Studio Classroom. I have a quiz for you and for Gabe.
Okay.
All right, this is a fill-in-the-blank quiz. Blank is often the reason that adolescents vape the first time.
Blank is a reason why adolescents vape the first time.
Yes.
Hunger.
No, that makes sense,
Hunger.
I guess, but that's not right.
I wasn't finished. Hunger to fit in.
Oh, yes.
Hunger to fit in and be cool.
What do we call that?
I don't know. Is there a term for that?
Yeah, well, we're going to find out what that is in just a moment. Let's continue.
Do you know?
To vape or not to vape? Packaging can be deceptive too, because it often makes e-cigarette products look like real candy. It's hard for children to tell the difference, so they can end up in the emergency room from ingesting the products. It comes as no surprise that peer pressure is often the reason that adolescents vape the first time. Turning down the offer and walking away may be difficult, but teens need to really consider the long-term consequences of giving in. Long-term effects of vaping are real and should be taken seriously and warnings heeded. Saying no to vaping may not be easy, but your body will thank you for the rest of your life.
好的，接下来来看 ingest 这个动词，它的意思是摄取或者是咽下去的意思。譬如 After Harold ingested the poisonous berries, he had to be taken to the emergency room. Harold 吃了有毒的浆果后，就被送到急诊室了。或者是 The kids ingested a bunch of sand when they were playing on the beach. 孩子们在沙滩上玩耍的时候，吞了一堆的沙子。再看一个例句 Geophagy, ingesting different kinds of soil, is common in some places of the world. 吞吃各类土壤的食土癖好，在世界某些地方很普遍。最后来看 heed 这个动词，意思是留意或是听从。譬如 If Charlotte had heeded her mother's warning, she wouldn't be in trouble now. 如果 Charlotte 听从母亲的警告，现在就不会遇到麻烦了。Heed 也可以当名词，例如 Blake paid no heed to his mother's warning about the snowstorm and left home without a coat. Blake 毫不在意母亲提醒会有暴风雪来临，他没穿外套就出门了。再举个例句 Frank didn't take heed of what his doctor told him to do, and now his health is failing. Frank 对于医生的吩咐毫不理会，现在他的健康状况逐渐变差了。Okay, let's get back to our teachers.
Thank you, Jack. All right, let's finish up our lesson about vaping, friends. We read here that packaging can be deceptive too. Now, we learned before the break that the marketing for vape pens or e-cigarettes can kind of be deceptive, and they're trying to sell teens a lifestyle that vape pens don't actually give them. But not only is the marketing deceptive, but the packaging is deceptive as well.
That's right. Now, deceptive, that means it's tricking us or lying to us in some way. Or maybe it's sharing the truth kind of, but not the whole truth. And maybe they're sharing a lie as well, okay? So that's being deceptive. Now, this reminds me of a phrase that looks can be deceiving. Deceiving is a different word, of course, but it's the same idea. It might make you believe something that is not true.
Yeah, and the thing that this e-cigarette or vape pen companies are trying to get people to believe is that these e-cigarette products look like real candy, so that they're fun and they're flavorful, maybe even colorful, but that's just deceptive. And that's a problem here because it's hard for children to tell the difference between packaging that looks like candy or fun and innocent and e-cigarettes.
Sure. So what happens? Well, kids might end up consuming these things and they end up in the emergency room, okay? That's what our lesson says. Some children cannot tell the difference, okay? If you can tell the difference, that means you are discerning. You know what is one thing and what is another thing. And some kids, they cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's not.
That's right. Well, in this next sentence here, we have a really great phrase that we want to look at. It comes as no surprise. Peer pressure is the reason that people end up vaping the first time. If something comes as no surprise, it means it's something that shouldn't surprise you at all.
Sure, it's like the opposite of when we say surprisingly, right? And then there's a surprising fact. Well, here we see it comes as no surprise. That means it should not surprise us, right? That peer pressure is often the reason that adolescents vape the first time. So let's talk about peer pressure now, because this is a very big idea, right? This is the reason why a lot of people start doing something, is because they see their friends, their peers doing something.
That's right. And this could be anything from trying a new substance to changing the way you look, to dress a certain way, or even bullying someone else. Peer pressure isn't always a bad thing if your friends and the people around you are pushing you to do the right thing or to make good changes in your life. But in a lot of circumstances, it is a bad thing, especially when you're not surrounding yourself with the right people.
It's true. Now, there are some things in life that it's okay for you to do because a lot of people are doing it, right? It's okay to follow the crowd in some situations or to hop on the bandwagon, right? That is to do something that a lot of other people have started to do, and maybe there's a trend, like using social media, for example. In general, that is an okay thing to do. But But if you are just giving into peer pressure, then maybe there's an aspect of it that is kind of bad, right? So don't just give into peer pressure for the sake of doing what other people are doing.
That's a great point. Well, there's one more idea we want to talk about at the end of our lesson today, and that is the idea of long-term consequences. If something has long-term consequences, it means that there is something that is going to happen as a result of what you are doing now, but that thing might not happen until way, way, way in the future. You might look cool now while you're vaping, but it really has an effect on your body when you get older.
Well, the lesson ends by saying no to vaping may not be easy, but your body will thank you for the rest of your life. Your body will thank you. Of course, your body can't speak, well, your mouth can, but it's a way of saying that your body is going to have good health benefits for the rest of your life, and your lungs will thank you as well. Let's go today to our skit.
Okay, it's time to plan our vacation.
Great! Let's go to the beach this summer.
No, let's go to the mountains. We went to the beach last summer.
And we had a wonderful time at the beach. So let's go to the beach again.
No!
Yes!
No, we always do what you want to do, but I'm not giving in this time. We're going to the mountains.
No, we're not. I'm not going to give in either. Why should I let you have your way? We're going to the beach.
The mountains!
The beach!
The mountains! I won't give in.
The beach. I won't give in either. It's my vacation too.
Why do we always fight about where to go on vacation?
I don't know. It really doesn't matter where we go.
As long as we're together.
together.
Okay, so I'll give in. Let's go to the beach then.
No, 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 no. I'll give in. Let's go to the mountains.
No, the beach.
The mountains.
Okay, great. You're the best.
Have you ever given in to something you didn't want to give into before, friends? That's something we want to talk about as we finish up our lesson today. I think a reason a lot of young people begin vaping, as our lesson said, is because of peer pressure. And that is when people your age want to pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. And that's something that I think everybody has to deal with at some point in their life.
Yeah, it's true. And when it comes to smoking, a lot of studies have shown that the reason some young people these days are starting smoking cigarettes is because they had already been vaping, right, with e-cigarettes. And so, people think it's a less harmful thing to do than smoking cigarettes. But actually, in many cases, it does lead to actually smoking cigarettes. And I just want to say, I know that peer pressure is out there. We all have to deal with it in some way or another. But as our lesson said, your body will thank you for the rest of your life if you say no to this kind of peer pressure. And Anne-Marie, wouldn't you say for anybody who hasn't started vaping or smoking yet, I know it's difficult to just say no sometimes to your friends, but just say no, right?
Yeah, I mean, that can be really hard to do. Peer pressure is a real thing, and I know you, especially students, deal with that on a daily basis. It's hard to stand up for yourself and say, this is not something I want to do. But we want to tell you it's okay to be different. It's okay to stand up for yourself. You don't have to do things that you don't want to do.
Right, and by taking a stand on something, your friends will begin to respect you for that as well. That might take a little bit of time. They might not like you refusing at the beginning, and they might offer a few times, right? But if you keep taking a stand, people will begin to respect you, and you will have the self-respect that you need as well. That's all the time that we have for today. It's been a good lesson about to vape or not to vape, and of course our answer is don't get started. But we'll see you next time for another lesson right here on Studio Classroom.
A good friend lasts a lifetime. I am so proud to have you in my life. A good friend lasts a lifetime.